I guess your post made me think about my experiences with bullying and people that have been bullied. I just wanted to kind of piggyback on your vlog. I think when it comes to bullying, there are two types of bullies. There's the ignorance, and those who are kind of obtuse, thick-headed. And as a child, I was an ignorant bully. I was not aware of the harm I was causing, but the cause was there. And I still today judge myself for those actions. The more harmful form of bullying, in my opinion, are those who kind of do it knowingly. And there's a lot of harm that they can cause. Why people bully? I think that's a big question which we don't really kind of ask ourselves. There are many reasons. Obviously, family problems. They're being bullied themselves. They're not really having many friends, feel lonely, kind of feeling bad about themselves, and therefore want to make others feel bad too. Taking their own frustration on others is another one. Feeling insecure and unimportant. Bullying kind of gives them a power. It's the feeling of superiority. Like perhaps they're feeling like they aren't really in control, and through controlling others, they get a sense of stabilisation, perhaps. Or, as I said earlier, ignorance, not really understanding the effect it has. It's just a good joke. It's funny, but not really understanding the extent to which it hurts the other person. Also, they could be afraid, jealous, envious, cruel, angry, insecure, unhappy. There are many reasons why people bully, but I don't think anyone really kind of stops and think as to why that is. I'm not sure saying we should do that, but I think there are two victims in bullying. There's the bully, who's obviously acting out for some reason, and probably, I guess, as equal, in my opinion, is obviously the victim themselves, who may have more troubling issues due to the bullying, but I think perhaps the bully themselves needs help. They're acting out for some reason. We need to know why, or it's helpful to know why. If you can address that problem, perhaps you can serve or save other people from future harm that yourself experiences. And what are the effects of bullying? By your accounts, you said, there's massive problems in certain areas, especially in the emotional, and possibly even physical development. And, especially in the key years of puberty, or even before that, as a child you're developing, physically, emotionally, socially. There's a lot of development going on there, and bullying can kind of get in the way of that, You're thinking it's a high stressful area, If the bullying is so intense, some things get put on hold. And development can be put on hold, You're dealing with something so big, in some cases, that you aren't letting yourself be a child. And this damage can be, it can last forever. In true honesty, it can last for years, and often people need help because of it. They need therapy. It can be that bad, and so the reaction can be so harmful to people. That has been the case, and it will continue. The key change that some victims suffer, is the destruction of their self-worth, which is something very important for people. We talk about confidence or self-esteem, but that can't exist without self-worth. The sense that you are valuable, the sense that you're worth something, not to society as such, but to yourself. The idea that there is some value in your life. If you don't have that, life is very isolated, it's very lonely, and that can be horrible to live with. If you don't understand or don't have that feeling of self-worth, then what do you have? It's like bullying is a way of putting people down. As a child you have these kind of thoughts and obviously insecurities about yourself. That's natural, but bullying kind of preys on that. You get people that say, you're fat, you smell, you're disgusting, you're stupid, 4 eyes, idiot, fat, 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 fat. You know, these are just comments to words, you know, sticks and stones and all that. But with people with these insecurities, it only reinforces them. You know, everyone's been bullied. I was bullied, I was abused, and this changed me massively in my life. Victims of bullying often draw from social interaction, you know. If they've lost their sense of self-worth, then what value do they have in having friends? You know, they no longer want friends. They'd rather be alone. They have no sense of value in the society. They want to feel safe. You know, these bullies don't make them feel safe. They don't feel safe going out because they don't want to be a victim. They just want to be left alone, and that's when they suffer. They suffer because of that. They're being forced out of society and out of social interaction because they're afraid. And I guess that kind of tortures you for years, you know. You have a voice in the back of your head, you know, saying, oh, you know, you get tiny ounce of inspiration or something. But then you remember a comment someone said, you know. Like, you can look at yourself in the mirror one day and be like, do you know what? Maybe I am pretty, or maybe I'm not so bad. But then, you know, when you feel low, you remember that person in school that said you are fat or ugly, and it eats at you. You know, you become like a prisoner to your own mind, and that breaks you up. It kind of grinds against you. And this is what these bullies do, you know. The bullying doesn't stop when they're not there, or when they've stopped making these comments. Because the comments are in your head, and when they're in your head, they'll literally start to pull at you until you break. And this is the big problem with bullying, you know. That's what's destroying your self-worth, you know. And if you can't find the worth, if you can't get rid of these doubts, you know, which are being reinforced by these bullies, kind of, where is the hope in having any self-esteem, self-confidence? You know, I remember getting called fat, stupid, and a freak, you know. And these comments stuck with me. They still do, you know. And I've spent years reading about kind of my problems, you know. I know everything there's no about kind of social problems and crap like that. But that doesn't help in any way, you know. The voices are still there. So, you know, how can people live with that? How do we live with that? How do I? How do you? How does anyone live with that? It's hard. You know, you fight your battles by yourself. Because you know at the end of the day, most of the time, you're the only person you can trust. You know, you can't trust other people because it was them other people that made them comments. And you may have friends, but deep down you think, well, perhaps they think that too. And then you just don't trust anyone. You know, and to get away from this, we form these comfort zones, you know? And this is where kind of the behaviour starts to come in. You know, obviously you're socially withdrawn, but then you pick up these obsessive behaviour problems, you know? Eating disorders, self-harm, various forms of social and behavioural disorders. And when they stick in there, this is the damage that bullying causes, you know? You get called fat. I know, I remember, I've you know, people are very judgmental in the way they look, and I think obviously media massive influence on that. And obviously you want to be popular, and by popular you think pretty or cool, and to do that you are often have to be good looking. You know, the popular girls are the good looking ones, the popular boys are the cool ones. You know, and it's kind of, life just becomes horrible because the way in which people form these comfort zones, this way of dealing with it, just become a massive part of our life. And before we know it, these comfort zones are now the thing that control us. You know, the sense of being free is no longer an option. We are controlled by the simple fear of being bullied. Kind of, when I was a child, you know, yeah, I was called fat. Everyone is at some part of their life, you know. Maybe now, not less of a big deal, but eating disorders, I had them, yeah. Self-harm, we did them. I'm, up until recently, didn't really want friends or social life because of the effects of, no self-worth. And, it's, when life is that bad, we think that we deserve nothing in life. That our mind, this obsessive behaviour, or in some circumstances like OCD, it's so obsessive, it's so reinforced by the comments that other people make that we believe it. And when we believe it, well, we purely are in a prison from the poison that's basically been put in our minds about what other people think we are. And that becomes who we think we are. And I think these people need our help, A lot of people suffer from bullying in silence. And I think that's the problem, It's not an easy thing to talk about, And people kind of laugh it off, it's only words. But deep down, it kind of breaks your heart. It pulls your heart. It pulls heartstrings. And they do need help. And I think, like I said before, I think it's also the bullies that need help. I think it's very important in combating bullying to understand why these people are acting out. Because these people are probably just acting out hurt themselves. They are hurting inside, and that's why they're putting hurt on others. Now, that's not justifying what they are doing. No, I'm not justifying the behaviour. I think it's intolerable. And obviously, as I said earlier, I ignorantly bullied people when I was 8 or 9. And I'm not proud of that. I've learnt from that. And I think that's the main thing. I've learnt from that. And although I'm ashamed that happened, I was a kid then. And since then, I've been bullied to extreme kind of levels. Once you get into secondary school, any bullying you see in primary school is nothing compared to secondary school. And we need to kind of look at not why there is bullying, but we need to look at the people that are bullying and just maybe giving them the support as well as those that are being bullied. We need to just kind of say, these people are acting out, they're hurting others, but what is the cause of that? And I think a lot of the time it's because either they're being bullied themselves, or there is hurt in there that is causing them to hurt others. And sometimes this can be serious hurt, kind of abuse level hurt, physical, emotional. It could even be neglect. They want attention, not necessarily because they're attention because they want to be people like oh, look at them, they're cool, they're picking on little geeks or whatever. It's because they want attention because perhaps their parents are neglecting them. These people often have to fend for themselves. And I think that is the important thing, when we're dealing with bullies. We need to look at both victims in bullying. There's the victim that they are victimising against, the innocent person. As far as innocent goes, there's a person who's been bullied just because of who they are, But there's also the victim that is the bully. Because it takes an incredible, cold-hearted person. And no doubt, there are people that cold-hearted that will do it deliberately, just for the fun of it. But deep down, I think that most of these bullies have the same hurts that we have. And their coping their comfort zone is by taking that frustration, that hurt, that fear on others. And I guess what I'm trying to really say is, the act of bullying is never justifiable. But there is always two people when it comes to bullying. There's the bully and there's the victim. And I think when it comes to bullying, it shouldn't be a sense of that person is wrong. Their behaviour is wrong. But I think they need support themselves. There's no point kind of saying, oh, you're suspended for bullying, or you need to go to what do you call them, the prisons that send little kids to in certain circumstances. We need to think, okay, they are bullying, But instead of punishing for this, we need to say, what is it in their life that's making them be that way? And perhaps by looking at that, and perhaps trying to tackle the reason why they're bullying may actually help. Because you see so many kids just being chucked out of school because they're bullying. Which, I guess, in some senses, is the right thing to do. You're trying to prevent the hurt of others. But then you have to look at the impact of that on their life. They're already scared. They're probably going through things at home or in their social environment which they aren't able to deal with, which is why they're in the situation that they are in. And now we've just thrown them away from any chance of support. But in the long term, I just want to say that people can change in life. I know we hear stories about people in prison finding God and, well, that crap. But people can change. And in time, we get to learn that the things we don't like about ourselves, we can challenge and we can change. And there are bullies in the world. There always will be. But sometimes they don't want to be bullies.